Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of this podcast. Today's guest is none other than Mr. Dan West. Please welcome Dan West to the show.
Hey everyone, good to be here, and I'm grateful to have the call up, Tim. So we had a chat not that long ago, so it'll be fun to do this, man. I love these kinds of interviews, and just excited to be here.
I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time because you're someone I look up to on Twitter, one of the most, let's say, solidified creators I know. Before we go there and to how you do all that amazing stuff, I just want to ask you like an introductory question. Who are you? What do you do? Introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know you yet.
Awesome. Thanks for the warm words, man. So who am I? I'm Dan West. I wouldn't really categorize myself as a creator or a marketer, a writer. I mean, obviously, I basically just reeled off a few potential categories there. But I've been building my brand in the Twitter economy on Twitter for the last sort of 18 months, which is probably why you might perceive me as established. I've just been here quite a while now. I like to launch digital products, coaching programs, and help people do the same thing. I guess some like credibility. A credibility piece is what really made me feel like I can make something of myself here, and which is why I haven't budged. Is about 2 years ago, I was in the crypto space. I got into community building. We launched a $240,000 community in a matter of, we made the money in a matter of weeks, but it was a matter of months that we built it. And that was when I realized, we did everything through Twitter there. And that was when I realized, there's a lot of money to be made in social media. There's a lot of money to be made in communities, and you need a brand for that. So when I finally got the opportunity to, I guess, use my favorite skill, which is writing, to build my brand, you don't have to just post YouTube videos, although I do a bit of YouTube. You don't have to just post selfies, and you don't have to just post reels on Instagram and TikToks to build a brand. You can build a really credible personal brand and a really credible business with the art of writing, which really is, I think, the highest form of expression because that's where everything stems from. So, yeah, I've been able to do that. Been able to have some really great progress and some really great launches that have enabled me to carry on doing this full time. And yeah, I've sort of oscillated between helping people, coaching people how to write and to express themselves better and build their communities, but also helping people and handling some of their marketing stuff as well for them, which is basically what I've done for the last sort of like 5 years is freelance and a little bit of agency work. So I've got quite a lot of experience, and yeah, I guess that's given me a good launch pad for what we do here, and still work to be done, but just enjoying the process. So it's just the funnest job in the world, really.
Love it. Okay, we'll get into all of that, but let's start from the beginning. How did you get into this online business thing in the first place? Maybe we go even further back than that. What led you to this point? You talked about the crypto community. I definitely want to ask you about that. But before that, where did you start out?
So when I really started understanding the power of social media marketing, I'm going to try not to put too many breadcrumbs in here. I'm not going to try and make the story too. I'm not going to try and take us too many places. But when I was at university, real back in the day, I used to spend a lot of time on like MSN. You're probably a bit younger than me, probably don't know what that is. Like Bebo and social media. Like I grew up when social media was just becoming a thing, and Facebook and whatnot. And then I really started using social media to market something when I was at university. I was the social secretary for my rugby team, and I used to write the social media posts. And the whole purpose of the social media post was to get people to convince people to come to the weekly social events. And those posts are really important because if it was a great sounding social, people would turn up, and you wanted a good turnout because it was a community. So that was like when I first realized how impactful, writing and words were. And that's when I first started copywriting. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I was selling people into an event. Then I used that to promote music events when I was in Australia, and that was my first business. They weren't necessarily 100% legal, but it was a business. And that was my first real like entrepreneurial venture that wasn't that was my first like real business where we're making real legitimate money. And then a few years later, I started doing content writing for a startup. They're a health startup. They were selling blue light blocking glasses, and I built them a course, like a massive course. Like I spent a lot of time on it, and they had a budget, so I just had creative free reign to just create meaningful, impactful content in the form of information, really. And so that was when I was really like writing a lot and producing a lot of content and being paid to learn how to do that. And this all sort of teed me up beautifully for. I also ran a gardening company, which we made remote. So that it became a full marketing game. Like we got off the tools. I stopped mowing lawns and actually started marketing the business, and it became a lead generation for home services in the end. But I did actually start mowing lawns. And that teed me up beautifully for a winter time when gardening was slowing down, and we decided to get into NFTs, which is like a type of cryptocurrency asset, which is like artwork. And we saw how much money people were making, and some friends of ours made like $500,000 in like hardly any time at all. And we sort of looked at it. I looked at my friends, and we looked at each other, and I was living with my housemate at the time, and we're like, we've got marketing experience. We know how this game works. We know how to do social media. Let's just give this a crack. And we built that community. We launched it. And when making that amount of money, which was $250,000 in that short period of time, was like a real earth-shattering, like belief-shattering moment where I was like, if you want to make great money in this world, it's all happening online. And it's happening on the fringes. It's happening right on the progressive fringes of business. It's not necessarily happening in the old style of business, which we know. It's actually happening online and with communities and with branding and all of that jazz, and social media. So that was really my journey. There's been stuff that's happened since then, but that was how I got into the game, and that's why I've stayed put. Because when something like that, I'm sure you've had it, Tim, where if a social media post goes viral, you're probably going to keep doing it. Like, it's the dopamine, right? And it's also the moment when you realize you can do more than you thought. And it was like that for me. It was like, I can't see myself operating in any other field because it's just so creative. You can work from your laptop, and the upside potential is huge with a lot of downside potential as well. You have to have an appetite for risk. But yeah, that's how I got here, man. Like that's basically my whole entrepreneurial journey, all the way from university, writing social media posts, to now writing online, doing exactly the same thing as when I started. Just this time I'm getting paid for it.
Cool. What exactly was it that got you to start a business in the first place? Was it freedom? Was it mastering the craft of writing? Was it just like a mindless decision at the time? Just I wanted to make money, or what motivated you to start a business in the first place?
So if we're looking at the music events company, which was really when I got into it, it was purely for fun. I loved the idea of offering something that was genuinely different and genuinely made people happy. I'm not going to sit here and be all altruistic and say my one purpose in life is to make other people happy, but that was why I started it. And that was why I started it with some friends, and it was fun because I was doing it with some people I really loved and really trusted, and were also just as smart, if not smarter than me. So it was about being able to, another thing was being able to move a large amount of people to do something that you want them to do was also really, really like empowering, and really, really interesting to me. Was how do you get, because these events, it was like getting 100 people in there, and they wanted to be there and they loved it and they wanted more, and that becomes addictive. So I guess it's being able to, like, I'm big on freedom, right? And I think once I started getting going, it was more about the freedom, because I was like, I'm getting into my late 20s now and I need to build a life. It's not just fun and games. But initially, it was all about how can you get people at scale to do what you want them to do and love every minute of it. It's like almost like being like, if I can, if I'm going to be able to control people's actions or like inspire them to take actions I want, where am I leading them and am I giving them something good at the end? And I think that was what it was really about, was with great power comes great responsibility. Maybe, I don't know, like, I'm not saying I've started a mass movement, but that's an ability that you can develop. And I feel like once you have that ability, you should be using it. You should be leading people somewhere that they absolutely love. So that's why I got into it, man. And it's changed a little bit since I started, but that was the initial
It was
spark.
like the entry drug. Okay, very cool. No, I love that, man, and I totally agree with you. If you have that ability, like, you'd be stupid not to use it. Okay, there's a lot more things I want to unravel there, but I want to ask you about so many more things. One thing specifically I want to ask you about is your concept of the presence offer. Um, Walk us through what that is, why it is important for people, and how it is superior to other types of offers.
So I really started getting into offers last year. There's a copywriter who I admire a lot, and he said the number one skill I think in online business is the ability to create offers. And I couldn't agree more in retrospect, because the offer is the reason people buy. I mean, you have different things like the person who's promoting it and stuff, but you can take someone with minimal authority. You can see an ad, for example, and if the promise is something that you really want, you and it's something that will really solve your problem, or move you towards the destination you really want to go, like, you will buy it. And I think that's not easy. That being able to figure out what that isn't easy. So a big thing for me was like, right, okay, I really want to get deep into offers, and I did. And the whole idea of the presence offer was something I realized when I hit my first 15K month as a coach. I was kind of umming and ahhing about coaching. I had a lead generation agency which I was building, but people just kept wanting to learn things from me. And in the same month, I closed 3 new clients, and one of them, he came to me. I met him in real life, and he came to me and he said, I want you to be my mentor. I want to learn how to write from you, because you can go into all sorts of different aspects of writing, but really it's how to think and how to communicate, in my opinion, at the highest level. And that's what he wanted to do. And I basically said, well, come and live with me for a month. And we got this beautiful, like, villa in the middle of Bali, and he paid a lot of money to spend that time with me. I had to charge him good money, because I was like, well, I'm going to be living with you and you're going to be next to me, and there's going to be times where you need help, and you're going to get this is the most access I can give someone. So the presence offer really became a concept for me once I realized that he wasn't paying to learn how to write. He wasn't even paying for information. He was paying for proximity. He was paying to be in my presence and me to be present with him, not just like, oh, okay, come and live with me and I'm just going to ignore you. No, I need to be present with you and give you my time and give you my energy. And that is what I realized in the coaching game. At least, maybe not at the highest level for those who are willing to pay the extra money, right? A lot of coaching programs are just kind of like structured and scaled in a way where you maybe don't even spend time with the mentor. But the highest ticket you can charge, the highest amount of money you can charge, is for your energy and for your time and for your presence, and to be there with them, because that's where you get the most value and downloads, just being next to that person. Like, Alexander the Great was a mentee of, I believe it was Aristotle, and like, that's not his parents, his family. He was the heir to the throne of Greece. They probably paid Aristotle a lot of money. I don't know what the numbers were. I don't know what his Stripe was saying, but they were like, we're going to go and put you in this man's presence, and you're going to learn from him, and you're going to be around him, and you're going to learn a lot more than what he teaches you. You're going to learn how he moves, how he thinks, all the nuances. And that was really coming back to it, where the presence of it came from. It's like, if you are a coach, if you are a mentor, if you are a teacher, the highest quality clients you can get that will pay you the most, it's not the most leveraged, but pay you the most, are the people that will pay for your presence, for proximity to you. And that month where I hit that 15K and I lived with my client made me realize that, and that was the most money I'd ever taken from someone. And it was because of what I was offering. It wasn't just the result, it was me, and it was proximity, and it was my presence. So yeah, that's where it came from.
Okay, interesting. So as far as I understand it, it's when someone pays you for you and not for anything else, just for like your skill set, your knowledge, your proximity, as you said. Okay, very interesting. Is that correct?
That's bang on, man. That is
Okay.
literally correct.
Interesting. Let's dig deeper into that. How does one create, position an offer like that? Because I'm assuming it's going to be difficult on the internet. You can't just move in with anyone. So how do you scale that?
Well, it's actually one of the weaknesses of it is that it's hard to scale, because fundamentally people want you. And if you're going to charge someone 10K for whatever, like your presence, you need to be there with them as much as possible. So online, one thing I've realized, and you might have realized this from doing podcasts, it feels like we're in the same room. Like, you can replicate that to some degree, to about 80% of what you can get in real life with online calls and by being in someone's presence online. These podcasts are probably just as successful now with online interviews as they are as in real life. Obviously, in real life, you get a little bit more, but there's plenty of podcasts that are absolutely thriving doing it like this, doing it digitally, right? So that says to me that you can replicate what you can get in real life pretty closely online. Not 100% the same, but it's pretty close. So it's essentially, it's like if you're doing one-to-one work with people, then you can offer them like one-to-one with me. I don't offer this to anyone else. You're going to get the same amount of time as we would in real life. You're going to get the same amount of value. You're going to get the same amount of attention. It's just going to be through a video call like this. And I've done this as a customer, as a client, and got insane value from some of my favorite mentors. And I've ended up meeting them in real life, funny enough. But it's been proven time and time again that you can get success, and you can people can download all the nuances of you as a teacher, as a mentor, through the online solutions we have, like Zoom and Google Meet. So I guess if you wanted to overly simplify it and say it what it is, it's the closest form of one-to-one access you can get without being in real life. And sometimes, if you were just meeting people in real life, maybe you wouldn't have the messaging, like messaging 24/7, not 24/7, but like immediate access with messaging, video calls whenever you need them. It's actually a lot easier to do it online. You're more connected than ever. So that's really what it is. That's how you that's how you implement it. And in terms of from a scaling perspective, the only real solution we have right now is, well, you do the same thing but in a group scenario, and instead of giving them like one-to-ones, you say, okay, well, you've got a direct line to me, and when we're doing the group sessions, like, I'm not going to talk at you, I'm going to talk with you, and I'm going to ask you how you're doing. I'm going to come around to each of you, and I'm going to dive deep on each of you as much as we can in the time frame. So really, you're still able to offer it, but the best clients, or the clients that resonate most with you, will say, okay, I like the group, but like, I still want more from you. And that's when you can like really scale hard and up your price, because you've shown, hey, look, there's a group scenario, but like, there is also a one-to-one scenario where it's not leveraged for me, so I have to charge more. And non-believers or people that are new to it, or maybe don't believe in coaching and they think it's a scam. Like, this is just how things have always been. This is just how things have always been. You want private tuition from the guru, the teacher, the coach, whatever you want to call them. Well, it's not as leveraged for them. They don't need to do it, so you've got to pay them more, and people will pay more, and that's probably where they get the most value too.
Yeah. This reminds me of that one story. I think it was like Alex Ramosi or Leila Homosi one of them gifted the other one a gift to hang out with Grant Cardone for like half an hour, and it was like $70,000. And I mean, yeah, that just shows that there is potential for scaling. It's just not in terms of, how many things you do, but just how much your time is worth.
That's it.
Would you say, or why would you say that this presence offer concept is superior to done for you work? I know you're pushing hard on this. I do agree that done for you work is a pain in the ass sometimes, but dig a little bit deeper into that.
Well, I posted a tweet earlier, probably not like my most viral tweet, but like it was a thought, right? And I said, call it whatever you want, the creator's life cycle, the entrepreneur's life cycle, whatever. And I said, you start with done for you services, you scale with done with you programs, and you retire on do it yourself products, right? So if we're following that as like a hierarchy of maybe not business, because there's agencies that do amazing doing done for you. If you look at that as like a hierarchy of like freedom and a hierarchy of scale, and you're in the game we're in, right? And you're a creator, you create content online, you teach people. Like, you have to start with done for you. That's what I did. 5 years of it. 5 years of writing for others, and building my own businesses, which wasn't always me as the primary benefactor. There was a team, or maybe I even had people that were like benefited more from those businesses than me. I wasn't always a CEO. So the way I see it is like done for you. There's nothing wrong with it. You need to do it. But like, you look at any of the top creators in the game, or any of the top entrepreneurs, they started off by doing the work themselves. Then they transcended to a higher plane, which was they either hired people, or they decided, okay, I'm going to take the skill and I'm going to package it up into a done with you solution. I'm going to teach people how to do this. So now you're ascending up the freedom ladder, like up the freedom hierarchy. You're scaling your time and you're scaling your revenue without having to do any more fulfillment. Like I said, there's two options. You go down like, I'm going to hire a big fat team, do agency stuff, which I think is still a viable business model. But we're living in an age where you can go this way and you can package up your expertise and put it into a done with you offer. So, and then I said you retire and do it yourself, because you need a lot of data and a lot of time with clients, coaching them and doing work for them initially, to know how to package a solution up where they can go and do it themselves, and they'll get results. But you have to do it with people for a while. So I guess, just to summarize, if you're looking at it as a hierarchy of freedom and scale, done for you is great. You need to do it. Like, I don't know anyone that hasn't done for you, who's succeeded and done with you and do it yourself. But if you want to transcend to a higher level of freedom and a higher level of scale, and you don't want to go the agency route, which a lot of people don't want to do, don't have the stomach to do, don't want the low profit margins, don't have, quite frankly, the leadership capabilities to do it in terms of being a manager. Being a manager is different to being a coach. Is like, hey, I'll inspire you, I'll move you, I'll give you everything you need, then you go and do it. Then done with you is superior in so many ways. And it what enabled me to experience being a freelancer, doing some agency stuff. For me, I wouldn't have hit my big 5-figure months that I've been able to hit without done with you. And it was I've had my ups and downs with the coaching game, but ultimately people have never wanted it more. So it's so in demand, it's so doable, and it's so scalable that if you have the belief in yourself and you have the experience, the case studies, and what I call the golden touch, like you can just talk to people and move them to action, to transformation, then why wouldn't you do it? It's like, if you've got the skills and you've got the people skills and you can connect with people, it just seems logical. And yeah, more freedom, more scale. It's undeniably superior if the agency model is not your cup of
Yep.
tea, which
Yep.
for a lot of people is.
Okay. So you would say done for you work is a prerequisite to being a good coach and doing good done with you work.
For being a good one, yeah. But
Okay.
let's be real. There's tons of people out here who just see the coaching model and want to do it, and they're not really the real deal. Someone that's got the experience and someone who can relate to all the struggles that someone doing done for you has gone through, because it is the bottom of the barrel. It's 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 the least leveraged work, and you have to do it. And so if you can relate to someone who's done that, you've got your reps in, you've tried and tested so many different strategies, formulas, recipes, whatever, then you're going to be a much better coach, because you're like, hey, I've done all this. I'm just doing this now because I've moved up to the next level. I had to earn myself to get there. It's not given, and some people just take it without being ready, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big problem I've seen on Twitter. Just people with zero skills, zero experience, just coaching people on, they might have gotten like 500 followers and that's like the only thing they've learned. Which I guess fair enough, everyone has to make their money. I'm not one to judge, but I don't think that's a sustainable model because there's no real skill, or like there is skill involved, but not that level of skill where you can really, really help people with your coaching offer. So I agree with you. Done for you work is a pain in the ass, but it has to be done if you want to be really successful with this stuff. And I also agree with you that do it yourself is like the holy grail, where you can just sell digital products, send like an email a day, and then do whatever the fuck you want the rest of the day. Um, but yeah, I mean, coaching is the bridge to that. And I have never really seen any successful digital products or bought them from anyone who hasn't done coaching in the past. Now that I think about it, that's actually very interesting. Um, okay, there's a lot to unpack there. We talked about the golden touch. I want to talk about that, how to move people. Uh, yeah, just walk me through that. What's the golden touch all about, and how can people develop that golden touch?
Well, I was talking to a client the other day. They were lacking a bit of clarity, and hope the connection's still good.
Yep.
They were lacking a bit of clarity, and I asked them to tell me their story, and they told me how they've been able to help their girlfriend like find their voice online, and they're now going viral. They were doing an old strategy. They gave them a new one, and all of a sudden they're going viral. He told me that he helped like his dad like make a transformation, like quit an addiction, and he also helped like one of his friends like get a girlfriend, right? And I was like, okay, that sounds really similar to how I started discovering that I had a similar talent, which is like I had family members who I helped get over addictions. I had friends who like I lived with them for a month, and well, that was actually 3 months, and we went to the gym every day, and like I got them disciplined, and they completely transformed their body, and that transformed their life because they were a new person. And I realized there's this trend between these people, which is you have the ability, even when you don't have the skill, you can still find someone that needs your help and give them the exact transformation they need. And that is something, I don't know if you're born with it. Um, I don't know if it just comes from reading like so much self-help that you just like end up giving it to others. Um, I think it can be developed through self-education, self-learning, self-development. I think eventually, like I use the analogy of a tree. Like once a tree gets to a certain height, like most trees and flowers for that matter, they branch out and they drop fruit, right? And so that's like how it is when you build yourself up and when you develop yourself, is eventually you grow so tall, and you grow, you have to give, like it's just a natural part of the process, and you have to work on yourself to develop that. No one's perfect. It doesn't mean that if you're giving, like helping people transform their lives, that you're all of a sudden a saint. Not at all. Like you could be but you can still be a bad person underneath, but you can still inspire people to make the change they need to make. That is what I call the golden touch. You can literally move people in the exact direction that they the exact direction they need the most, and help them make that transformation in their life that's permanent. Quitting an addiction and like alcoholism, like I've helped people do that, like just by pure spending time with them and making them think. If you can help someone implement that kind of change in their life, which so many people say it's so hard to give up an addiction, alcohol is addictive. It's like the right person comes along, makes you think differently. All of a sudden now you're sober for 4 years, which is a true story of mine. It's someone close to me. You then go and take a skill like writing, or you then take a skill like whatever it is, and you use your voice and your power of communication to impact others to do the same thing. It's like you're just scaling your gift, and I think that's what everyone's trying to do, is scale their gift, but finding the gift specific thing that people need the most, because things can't scale if you can't help everyone quit alcohol but you can use that gift in a way and funnel that energy into a skill or a development tool or a solution for someone that can transform their life permanently. So that's what I'd say the golden touch is.
That's pretty similar to leadership, something I also wanted to ask you about, because leadership is, everyone online talks about, you have to be a leader if you want to make money from social media. A lot of people feels like they don't really know what that means, but you seem to be someone who really brings those unique perspectives to the table and can shift someone's beliefs and help them with that. So how do you go about positioning yourself as a leader online? And yeah, just walk us through how you do that.
Well, it's cool to hear that someone would perceive me that way. I think it's something that isn't spoken about enough, personally. There's a really great book called 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by Maxwell, John C. Maxwell. I was about to say Maxwell Maltz, that's psycho-cybernetics. And I read it twice. And so like I really ingrained like what it means to be a leader. Have I been able to personify it in my life? Hopefully. I mean, maybe I was born with it. Maybe I developed it. Maybe I've got a long way to go. But I look at everything through the lens of like who's leading and do people have leadership skills, and I try and surround myself with leaders as much as possible because it's a positive influence, right? But how can someone position themselves as a leader online? Look, it's tough, man. I think you genuinely have to care so much about the other person, the specific person you help. And look, like there's a financial gain, of course. Like if you get it right, like there's the burden of I think leadership is you sacrifice the most, and people look at leaders and they go, oh well, they're getting paid the most, or they get the best girlfriends, boyfriends, or they can just click a button and make things happen, right? But it's like they've earned that through sacrifice. They make more sacrifices than anyone, and the ultimate sacrifice is yourself. You basically put other people before you, and there's no reason it can't be a win-win. But I think it's really focusing on the other person, figuring out how you can help them, and figuring out where you want them to go. Because I think one thing that the best leaders are is like visionaries, and they can see paths that you can't, and they don't just see it for themselves, they see it for other people. They're like, this is where you need to get to. And it's almost like maybe a little bit of tough love. It's like you need to know where they need to go, like that rhymed. But you need to know where they need to go more than they do, and that's why coaches in particular, I think they're fundamentally leaders. You need to be like, okay, I know where you need to go. You don't even know 100% where you need to go. Maybe you have an idea, but like, here's where you want to go. I can paint a picture of it for you. I can show you it in my own life. I can talk about it in my content. I can uncover it with you by working with you. And then I also have the path to get you there. And I think that's really what a leader is. You look at like Martin Luther King, like he was talking, he referred to the Bible a lot. He was like, I've seen the promised land, like I've been to the mountaintop and I've seen it, like we're going to get there. Like that's like Moses. That's like basically Moses, the ultimate leader, right? That's Moses saying, I've seen where we're going. Like we're getting the fuck out of Egypt and we're going to like our home, like where we belong. And and it's just constant, like throughout history, throughout you look at any great business leader, Steve Jobs, like, I want to make a world where we have computers in our pockets. He was leading us to that world. He was like, that's where you want to go, and I'm going to take us there. I'm going to make sure we get there. I'm going to break my own back to get there. So yeah, it's really about like taking an individual or group of individuals, telling them, like, painting a picture of where they need to go, and showing them very, very confidently, like, I can get you there, because it ain't going to be easy. And look at anyone that's succeeding right now in our specific niche. Danko's probably the best example. Like, he's painted a picture of what it's like to be free online through online. He's basically like telling everyone where you can go and showing that it's possible, and that's why people follow him, because he's maybe not telling like graphic stories, but like he's painting a picture of a positive future and embodying that, as well as like, look, I can get you there because I live here, and that's where you want to go, and I'm telling you that's where you want to go. And humans are so easily influenced. Like, if you're good at telling stories and good at like painting a picture and casting a vision, and that's what they want, like, you become the solution. You become the person that's going to take them there. So I think that's how you position yourself. Maybe that's not technical. That's more like philosophical, but that's how I see it.
I love that, man. That's honestly so valuable. Stuff to think about. I'm definitely gonna take some time to think about that this evening. But for the time being, something that we also touched on right there was the ability to paint a picture. And I think that includes to be a clear thinker, to be able to express your ideas clearly. And personally, I found it within myself. One of the things I get most jealous of in my life is when someone is really able to express unique ideas clearly. Like, I don't get jealous if someone drives like a fancy car or has like a big house, but I get really jealous of people who can just think clearly. And jealousy, I think it's a good proxy for where you should focus on in life, for what's important in your life. So something I definitely want to get better at, and you seem to have that figured out, as at least within your content, within this conversation. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to improve their thinking, or their just being distinct with their content, with their ideas, and all the likes?
Well, I certainly don't have everything figured out, but it's deciding what three things are really important to you. Validate, like putting out like tons of ideas about that. Like, this is going to sound wild. I was watching I can't believe I'm saying this. I was watching a documentary on Hitler, and he wrote in Mein Kampf that propaganda is basically like three talking points repeated over and over again. So that's where I got that three things idea from. We're basically like living in a modern day, like everyone is an independent propaganda machine for themselves in the personal brand game. So it's like pinpointing those three things is something like an exercise that I'm currently like embarking on. Discussing like breaking it apart, as many sub ideas within those realms as possible. Validating it with like content that resonates. Like I've oscillated between like posting loads just to get data. Like, I don't care if it gets engagement. I don't care if people love it or not. I'm just trying to find the golden nuggets, and then dialing it back, refining, and just putting out like, I don't know, like less high quality posts based off those. And it's basically this constant game of like gaining, like putting as much content out as possible, and then dialing it back once you have data, refining it, and then going again, and like just constantly like, all right, up the volume. All right, what worked, what hit, we take that. And so really, I think what it is, it's about knowing exactly what you stand for and what's important to you, breaking apart those like three things into like many sub expressions of that idea, and then putting out as much content as possible, getting feedback, seeing what worked, and then maybe in between like those parts, like using your content in different ways, or like expressing it in different ways. Like sometimes I'll write like a long post that won't be like structured well, but the ideas are really, really like personal to me and really important. They will do really well. Then I'll do other posts which are like structured in a certain way. It's all about being aesthetic with the writing. They'll do really well, not just because the idea is good, but because it like the structure is good. And after a while, you start to like get an understanding of like what resonates with people, the clearest way to express the ideas, and also ways to like break up, like be less predictable with how you're expressing them and seeing how people resonate. Like I've seen you lately, like I've seen you experimenting a lot more with how you like structure your post, how you introduce like the hooks and stuff like that. And it's actually, for me, as someone that's like been in the game a while, I'm like, I like to see that, because you're actually experimenting and you're not like playing the like game of like, oh, every post has to be like a viral platitude because I want people to see I get engagement. It's like, no, I'm trying to like actually find different ways to do things and express myself. And yeah, so the original point, like how do you communicate clearly? I think it's just figuring out what's important to you, what comes from your heart. You know, talking about Hitler, Mein Kampf, my struggle is basically like it's like a violent love letter, like in a way, like from the heart. And then basically, you know, testing those ideas, seeing what resonates most, and yeah, like just really speaking what's on your heart. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay, nice. I love that. And a whole bunch of volume, just figuring out what works and just practicing. Okay, nice. Yeah, I've definitely been experimenting a lot with my content lately, and most of the posts just fall flat on the nose, zero engagement, but I mean that's feedback. It's always an experiment. I wrote an email about that today, just view your business as an experiment, just put stuff out there, get feedback, and then make adjustments based on that. Um, One more thing I want to ask you about is there are a lot of people who would be qualified to be coaches. I mean, they've done DFY work. They do have a solidified skill set, um, but something holds them back. They don't have confidence in their ability to teach other people. You can call it imposter syndrome, lack of confidence, whatever. What advice would you give to those people to overcome that and to put themselves out there to start charging what they're worth and to sign coaching clients?
Stop giving a fuck. Like that would be number one. I think you have to understand that this is what I had to understand. I'll talk a little bit about imposter syndrome in a moment, but I want to start with the most important thing. Like, if you want to build a personal brand, if you want to be someone, if you want to make money online specifically, like you need attention. That means that you need to, you're holding yourself, you're taking on massive accountability. Like you're basically failing in public. Like that's what you're willing to do. You're saying I'm willing to fail in public dramatically, and also not just that. Like I'm willing to actually get a name and get known. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to have a massive audience, but like it's going to help with scale in the long run. So you have to be aware that that's going to be a potential reality for you. So if you're going to take that on, that means that you need to have a thick skin, and that means you have to be able to like brush things off. So you probably will be criticized. The more you gain notoriety, the more you gain attention. And I think coming to terms with that early on is going to help a lot with confidence, because you're basically saying like, no one can change my belief about myself. You can maybe help me improve by giving me criticism, but like I'm not going to see myself as a lesser being because you don't like me. So you have to stop caring. You have to be stoic. You probably should read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius before doing it, because you're gonna take some criticism, and you're gonna have some hate. Hopefully, you're gonna have some haters. Like that would be a great thing for you, to be honest. And I say that with with a caveat, like you don't just want to be a dickhead, but you want to be willing to be seen as a dickhead by people that don't matter. As for imposter syndrome itself, like I've dealt with it. I'm not immune to it. I had a pretty nasty bout of it not that long ago. It kind of happens once you start succeeding, but it also happens right at the beginning before you even step foot, because you're imagining the future success. Like, what happens when I get there? Like, are people going to think I'm a scammer? Are people going to think I'm a fraud? Are people going to think that, I don't deserve it? Do I deserve it? Who am I, right? And I think the best way to overcome it is to actually look at the facts of your life. And there are facts that are beneficial to your self-esteem, and there's facts that are not beneficial. I would say focus on the ones that are beneficial to you, that are beneficial to what you want to achieve. Do you have the golden touch? Have you been helping people like quit alcohol? Have you been helping people do like all sorts of transformations and achieve all sorts of transformations in their life? If you have, then you're already qualified. Like, the way I see it, like, you're more than qualified already. When you look at like, oh, okay, are people going to think that I'm taking this leap too early? Do I need to do more done for you work before I do it? The answer is no. Like, you don't. Like, you simply need to have a skill people want, and you just need to look at markets. Like, oh, okay, everyone's buying like this. Everyone's buying writing courses. Everyone's learning this specific skill. I don't know. Like, okay, so if you have the skill, what's to stop you just starting and like presenting a solution to the marketplace and improving as you go? So the most important thing with confidence, stop giving a fuck. Like, who cares? Like, someone criticizes you, who cares? Like, you get your client like dumps you, like client doesn't want you, who cares? Like I'm only making $1,000 a month doing this, who cares? Like, just keep going and be stoic and realize that like confidence is built. It's an internal game. Like, and you have to be that person long before you have the medal. Like, that's it. Like, you have to be that person years before you get the medal. So it's just going to be a struggle for a while, and it's going to be shit. You're going to eat shit for a while. And then once you do start succeeding, like, imposter syndrome starts hitting you, just look at everything you've achieved and be like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. There are no accidents. Like, even if a complete scammer gets to like a high up position, they shouldn't necessarily have imposter syndrome, because they're exactly where they're supposed to be. Like, people are idiots, so they've been able to fool people. Like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, man. Like, or girl, or whatever. Like, you just fooled people. That's why you got there. Like, well done. But then there's those other people, those true leaders, those true angels, call them what you want, that like, they're there exactly the same as the scammer, because they deserve it, because they built their brand the right way, because they help people, and they have the credentials. And people have a lot more credentials than they give themselves credit for. Like, telling your story and sharing your wins in the past and your credibility. So what if some people go, you're flexing, you're being a dick? It's like, as long as you're not doing it in a distasteful way, people want to hear about that. Like, people want to hear about that. Like, Ogilvy and Mather, like David Ogilvy's advertising company, at the beginning of most of their ads, it's immediately like, Ogilvy and Mather has agencies or offices in 17 different continents. Now you're going to listen. So it's like, they don't have imposter syndrome. Like, so neither should you. I know they're a little bit further down the track than a lot of people where they're at, but you need to be able to communicate your value. And if you understand how to communicate your value, you will have no problem understanding your value. That's why I think writing's so important. You really discover who you are and why you deserve to be where you're at, and how you can make people care. So yeah, I'd say that, man.
Love that answer. I want to ask you a difficult question. I just came up with this on the spot, so it's probably not going to be very refined, but what piece of advice, if there was only one piece of advice that you could give to, let's say, someone who's a couple steps behind you, they're, maybe they're working with a couple of DFY clients, they're building their business, they're making decent money, some months worse, some months better, but, it still feels like a struggle. It's still a roller coaster ride. It's an up and down ride of emotions. Probably never going to change, but what piece of advice would you give to those people?
Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. um, I had a client, and they very driven, very ambitious, very impatient. Now, you need to have that impatience and that desire, but you also need to have patience, because if you have that ambition and that desire, you're not going to stop, and you're going to do your best every day. And if you're not, that's a separate problem to fix. But I've yet to find a truly driven, ambitious person who wants all the right things in life: the freedom, money, wealth. I think there's nothing wrong with chasing status because it does give you benefits. All those things that people want and are striving for, particularly online, and then all the other things: great relationship, great health. Why not have it all? That's what we want. That's what entrepreneurs are basically trying to do. They're just trying to optimize their life as much as possible. So I would say, like, the one thing that you need is patience, because life is going to go very, very fast. It has for me. And you realize, like, when you get to the destination, like, it went like that. So if you spend your whole life in a state of anxiety about not being good enough, not having the thing that, like, Susie up the road has, like, you're not gonna live your own life. You're not. Like, you're just basically just like deleting time, and that's great when you want a fast solution, but it's not great when you've reached the point you wanted to get to and realize everything is a blur. You basically blacked out and like got there. So patience is important because it enables you to like sink into the present moment and actually like enjoy things. It's not going to stop you working hard, and it helps you broaden your time horizon. It makes you think more long term. So you're probably going to actually achieve more success with patience, because you're going to make decisions that aren't emotional. You're going to make decisions that are based on like rational thought, that are more calculated, and also it's going to relieve a lot of the anxiety which leads you to make terrible decisions that will stop you getting where you want to go faster. So I think patience is a big one, because compounding interest is just been proven. Like, it's just a proven thing. It's been a case for me, and I think people need to stop looking at they need to look at the bigger picture and like not necessarily look at like, oh, I looked at the last 3 months and like month one was like a 10K month, and then month two was like a 1K month, and month three was like 3K. I'm losing. It's like, hang on, like in a year, look back at that whole year and you're just going to see the graph going up. I haven't seen anyone that's stuck with what they're doing and not seen the graph keep going in the right direction. Why? Because that's compound interest. So do yourself a favor, not just for your mental clarity and your mental state and your decision making. Patience will help you be, in my opinion, more successful, because you're not going to be making knee-jerk decisions which sabotage your whole journey and actually slow the process down. So I guess to finish on a quote, something that I heard from Jeff Bezos. He was like, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And it's not about sitting on your ass and doing nothing. It's about realizing that being a little bit more patient with what you're doing is actually going to get you where you want to go faster. And I think if anyone wanted like a practical takeaway, like, just go and read the Bible, just go and pray, just go and like believe in something that enables you to slow the fuck down and realize that like there's a bigger plan here and everything's going according to plan, and the only thing that's going to get you off that plan is a lack of patience, too much emotion, and rushing things too much. So that's me. That's what I'm saying.
Beautiful. Yeah, great way to end this. I just want to ask you as a last question, what are your plans for the future? What are you currently working on? Something that you want to put people onto? Yeah, tell us about that.
Plans for the future. So I've stopped planning so far ahead. But at the moment, like, something I've been doing for years is just like building communities. We have to be patient, like I said, but it's about trying to build the biggest possible community that I can, and finding the real solution that is going to like unify people and is going to really like actually like transform their life. Like, a big thing for me, like that's why we're in the wealth market. I think people deserve to have whatever they want, and a lot of that comes from how well their business is doing. So I like helping people with their business. I like helping people with their marketing. I like helping people with their sales. and being able to scale their business. Because if they can do that, they get more freedom, they feel better, their energy goes higher. Like, it's just been proven, like, like success breeds more energy. And I think people, that's the biggest gift you can give people, is like more energy in their life, more drive, more motivation, more fulfillment, and just feeling like they're truly alive. And I think a lot of that comes from business success. So I'll continue to operate in this market for now, and helping people grow their businesses and unifying them around a solution and a cause that really compels them to do the best they can and helps them get the best results they can, while actually like building a real like network, like a real high quality group of people that takes the edge off what we do. It's stressful. We're in the wilderness, trying to survive. So yeah, you can catch all the buffalo you want, but it kind of feels empty when you don't have the right people around you. So it's about bringing people together in the best possible way. So I'm just going to keep scaling that right now. I also have clients as well who I want to like just keep working with, because they're almost like family now. Some of them are done for you, some of them are done with you. I just want to keep that family close and build with the same people consistently, investing in those relationships long term. But then what I'm doing at the moment, I've literally just launched the Client Accelerator, which is a 10-week fast track program. Teamed up with a few of my old clients for that. Actually, it's kind of cool. Helping people get three clients in the next 10 weeks. We've given a pretty generous guarantee. Like, if you don't hit it, like, just give you your money back. Like, we don't want to give you something that doesn't work. So that's a little shameless plug for that. Apart from that, man, yeah, just keep communicating with the world and keep sharing my ideas. And I don't know, maybe someday, man, that the UK is not in the best spot. Like, maybe someday I might I'll either completely leave for good, or I'll maybe get into politics or something. I don't know, man. Like, that's a story for another time. But I'm only being half serious about that. We'll see. We'll see how bad it gets.
Nice. Thank you for being on, Dan. Really loved this one.
Of course, man. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure and great questions. So yeah, hopefully do it again.